Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to work on this little guy, this little red truck. I built this actually for Christmas, but it's February. But I built this, I'm going to use it at Christmas time, build a Christmas tree for the back of it. I think that'd be super duper cute. But anyway, I was building little trucks like this for my grandkids, and I decided to do a red one. For my upcoming Christmas for 2022. So anyway, this is what we're doing today. Let's jump right into this. So for this project, I am using this red. Figure I'm going to use the truck for Christmas time, but this is a Craftsmart. It's a worsted weight, and the color is tomato. I'm going to use a 4 millimeter, even though it calls for 4.5. I'm going to use the 4 because I want it to be nice and tight. So I've already started the video with you. I'm backpedaling now to add this part. This is nice and it's tight. It's almost like material and not. So it's kind of stiff, right? And that's the whole goal. So anyway, on with the video, even though we've already started it. Hi guys, so I'm starting off, I'm going to do a red truck because I want to have it for Christmas, even though it's nowhere near Christmas. And I'm using my 4 millimeter G hook. So you just want to start off by making a slip knot. And we're going to be doing a chainless single crochet foundation. So it's a tough one. So we're going to chain 2. That's how we're going to start. So if you turn this over, you know you've got back bumps back there, right? So I need you to go through the top bar and that back bump. Yarn over and pull through. Then you're going to you're going to chain 1, basically. You're going to chain 1. And then you're going to make the stitch. So that's stitch number 1. You can see your V stitch right there. I need you to go back into that stitch. So you're going to go back in, you're going to pick up those bars, because that's the stitch we just made. You're going to pull through. You're going to chain 1. And then you're going to finish the stitch. So now we've made 2 stitches. You can see the 2 stitches there, and you're going to see 2 stitches on this side. That's the whole point of the reason I'm doing it. You probably watch videos of other people doing it because they need it to be stretchy or boingy, but that's not why I'm doing it. I need to sew into that side later. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to go into that stitch that I just made. That stitch I just made, I'm going to pull up a loop. I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to finish the stitch. So that's all you do. You just go back into the stitch you just made. So now I've got 3 there. I'm going to go back into the stitch that I just made. Pull up a loop. Chain 1. Single crochet. So I need you to do 37 of these. I've done 4 with you, so 37. So that's my foundation single crochet foundation chain. Once you're done your 37 stitches, you're going to chain 1, turn your work. So we're just treating this like normal. Now we're just normal stitches. I just really needed to have stitches on both sides, but it is quite boingy. Anyway, that's besides the point. For the next 12 rows, I just want you to put 1 single crochet in each of these. Well, you need 12 in total, so for the next 11 rows. For the next 11 rows, I need you to put 1 single crochet in each stitch. And I will see you on the other side. Okay, so this is, I'm going to zoom out a bit. I just went back and added something to my intro about this. You'll see it. I use a hook smaller than the worsted weight yarn I'm using so that it's stiff like this. Like, I don't know if you can tell by looking at it, you know, because of what I'm making, and that's why I did it. So whatever yarn, I should have added this at the beginning of the video anyway, but whatever yarn you're using, go down at whatever hook it calls for, go down in hook size. You don't have to use worsted. Just go down in hook size. So it's a little bit of a tighter weave. Like, you can literally hardly even see through that. So that's 12 rows all together, including my foundation single crochet. So I've already chained one. I turned my work. We're going to be making all these panels are going to be all attached, except for when you'll have to sew together the final part. So to do that, we're going to do a front post single crochet for 36 posts, and then the last stitch is just going to be a single crochet in that last hole. So starting with, you've already chained one, starting with your very front post, you're going to go around the post like that. You're going to grab your yarn and pull through and do a single crochet. That's it. So front post, single crochet. Easy peasy. Do that all the way across. And the last stitch, just put a single crochet in that for the turning part of it. There's no post. You're going to run out of post. There won't be a post. So I just want you to fill that last stitch with a single crochet. So I'm just coming to the end of my row. I'm on my last post. So when you turn it over, you've got one stitch. It's that turning over stitch. Where's my pointer? This guy's sideways, because that's the turn. Might help if I'm on camera. That's the turning over stitch. So that's the one you have to get into to do your stitch and then your chain one. So doing that leaves this ridge on it. So that separates the panels of the truck. This is a small truck, by the way. This isn't like a great big truck like this guy. I can't even get him all in there. So this great big guy, it's not a truck like him. It's going to be a truck like him. It's just going to be a small truck like him. And then for Christmas, I'll do the whole Christmas tree for the back of the red truck. You know, that's the plan. These other guys, I got that one. And then I've got this size, which is the one we're making today. This one's going to my grandson's. I'm not finished doing it, though. I still got to put lights. I didn't put a grill on the front of this. This guy has a grill, and I just thought it was just way too much gray. So I did not put a grill on the front of him. I just put a bumper on him, and I'm in the middle of doing his lights. That's really the only thing left. I might put row bars on this one, but I don't want to put it on my red truck because I want to put a Christmas tree in the back of it, like, you know, the country Fred whole red truck, you know, thing. So that's the plan. So this is what I get my coffee out of the way. That's what that front post did, was put that ridge all along. And that's going to separate the panels, because this truck's going to be, you know, not the size of the green one. It's going to be more the size of the purple one. A lot better for toddler hands too, I think. This doesn't take a whole lot of yarn. I used a half a skein of yarn, a 7-ounce skein, for the whole truck, for this smaller one. So a half a skein of a 7-ounce ball. That's all you're going to need for this. So I've chained one. I'm going to turn my work. So now I'm looking at the ridge side of it. And I just want you to do 15 rows of 1 single crochet. So we're not going into these stitches, we're going into these top ones here. Now if you're looking at it funny, you're going to go into these top ones. And if you need to make sure you keep your sides nice and straight, some people have crooked sides on the right side because they don't go into this very first stitch. They bypass it. They think their chain one covers it, but it does not in this case. And then the same thing for this last stitch. The turning over stitch is what I call it because it turns over. It's almost sideways. You got to turn over to make sure you get into this very last turning over stitch. So that's why people can't keep their sides straight. That's generally the only reason people can't keep their sides straight. So just make sure you get into the first and the very, very last one. So we're doing these stitches on the top. We're not worrying about these stitches down here. So I just want you to do 1 single crochet in each stitch for the next 15 rows. And I will see you on the other side. So this is my 15 rows. It's getting pretty out of shape. You're just gonna have to stretch it back into shape. It'll be fine once we stuff it and everything else. So yes, you can see this little dip here. That's where we did our front posts, single crochets, and that's what we're going to be doing again. So you have to be on this side, not this side. So if you're on the side where the ridge, do you see that? That's where we're going to fold it. You need to be on the flat side. And that's why I did the oddball number. And the bigger parts, so the 15 rows, this will be the side panel of the truck. This is going to be the top. So it's going to be wide and not so tall. And that's why this is 15 and that's 12. So we're going to do the same thing. Front post, single crochet for 36 posts. And then we're going to put our 1 single crochet in that last stitch. So I'm at my last post, put my single crochet, and then you've got to turn it over to find these 2 pieces from your turning over stitch, which is why I call it that. Get my lead on the right side, and then put your single crochet. So that's what it looks like on that side, and then this side now has 2 ridges. So we're going to do a side panel again, so chain 1, turn your work, and again we're not going into these stitches. So the whole point of this ridge is that's where it's going to be folded, and it's almost just a natural fold. It wants to fold there naturally. It just makes life a lot easier for people. Instead of sewing each panel together, I decided to just do it this way. So again, you're not working into these stitches, you're working into these stitches up here. So they're kind of turned over backwards because we just turned our work. So 1 single crochet in each stitch. Make sure you're getting into the first and the last stitch for the next 12 rows. And I will see you on the other side. So the problem with trying to keep it even. So I got 12 rows, 15, and 12 rows. I'm on the wrong side to do my front post double crochet. You have to be on the flat side to do it. So if I turn around and I start doing my front post, this is going to be the flat side, and the other side is going to be the raised side, and I need it on this side. So the reason I stopped you at 12 was to explain to you the reason we're going to be doing 13 rows. I could have stopped at 11, but when I was designing this and I stopped at 11, it seemed to be really noticeable. But when I stopped at 13, because I put this ridge on that 13th row, it looked like the same size as this. So that's why I'm explaining it to you. So we need to do one more row so that we can put the ridge on, and it kind of takes away. So trust me, it will all look the same size. But when I tried to do 11 rows and then put the ridge on, it really looked like it was 9 rows. So that's why I did it that way. So I need you to do one more row of single crochets so that way you're on the flat side to do your front post. So now that I've explained it, I will meet you back here after this final row of 1 single crochet in each stitch. So I've chained 1 and I turned my work. So the reason I thought I needed to explain that is because, number 1, if I say just do 13 rows, people are going to be like, why would I do 13 rows? I did 12 rows down here, and now I'm doing 15. Why would I do 13? What is this woman building? You know, questions would have to be answered, and that's why I just thought I would put it in the video why I'm doing what I'm doing. So if this looks wonky to you, that's just because it's a tight weave with the smaller hook and everything. You just have to stretch it out and relax your stitches. So now that I'm on the correct side, which is the flat side, not the lifted side, see that? The flat side. Now this is where I want to do on this 13th row, because you're doing it on the posts anyway, so it'll still look like it's a 12 row panel. So I want you just to do your front post single crochets all the way across for 36 stitches, and then your last stitch will just go into the stitch. Just the same thing that we've been doing. This chapter 1 is going to end with doing the final panel, and when we meet back in chapter 2, that's where I'll be showing you how to attach the other 2 ends. We'll be doing the stuffing and stuff like that. So I'll meet you at the end of this row. So I'm on my last post, do my single crochet. I'll flip this over a little bit, get my full stitch, and there we go. So we've got our 12, 13 row panel, 15, and then 12. So we're going to do another 15 row panel, and then that'll be the end of our truck body. So when you fold it, let me take my needle out. These 2 are your side panels. It looks like this just because of the tight weave we got going on. So these are your 2 sides, and then that'll be your truck bottom or top, whatever way you choose. And then we're going to build the other top or bottom of the truck, either the carriage or the bed of the truck. And then when I stuff this, I'm going to tell you ahead of time, just so you know, a subscriber a long time ago told me that things that are difficult to stuff, which is going to be this, she actually stuffs a pantyhose and then she stuffs the big awkward object. So I thought that was brilliant. So that's what I did for my truck. I used pantyhose. So if you want to use pantyhose like me, then knock your socks off. So for the next 15 rows, we're just going to put 1 single crochet in each stitch. So this, I'm done my 15 rows. So let me explain what we're going to do here before I leave you and get into chapter 2. So here we did 12 rows. We did 15 rows. We did 13 rows because we put the thing on. And then we just did 15 rows. So the two 15 rows are the top and bottom of the truck. And the 13 and the 12 are the side of the truck. The reason why I didn't do 13 rows over here is because I'm going to kind of fake it to look a certain way. So we're on the back side, which is the side that we need to be on to do our front post. So we're going to do the exact same thing that we've been doing the whole time, and this will be the last row. So you're just going to do your front post single crochets all the way across, and then your 1 single crochet that you would normally do in that last stitch will be where you fasten off. So I've just done my last post. I'm going to put my, well, not even put a 1 single crochet. I'm just going to use that to fasten off with a sewing tail to sew across. I'm not crocheting mine together. It just makes it too big on the edge. So I'm not. And I'm not even a very good sewer, and I still say that. So it's just too thick of an edge. So we want our ridge on the outside of our project. This almost feels like it needs to be blocked, but it'll be fine once it gets stuffed and everything. So all your ridges, like I say, just naturally fold. So it's not like you have to really try. So we'll get this sewn together, and then I'll be meeting you in chapter 2. Do not touch any of these stitches at the front. The stitches that you want to touch are, let me put my first stitch in. Probably just do a whip stitch. So the stitches that you want to touch are these ones underneath, not these ones on top, these ones underneath. So you're literally, I was just in here, but I'm going back in. You're literally going to go stitch for stitch and do a whip stitch. Or you can do if you wanted to do a mattress stitch, you can do that too. I'm just going to do a whip stitch. I'm not going to mess around with any special stitches. It's not that imperative because you're really not going to notice this anyway. So just make sure you're not touching those stitches on the top. So unfortunately, it has to get rolled over to get sewn, but we want it to be nice. Now a whip stitch is back loop to back loop, but I'm just going through all the stitches. I'm sure it'll be fine. Although, don't take lessons from me. I suck at sewing. So I'm on my very last stitch, and I'm going to put a couple in there. On my second one, that's where I'm going to put my knot. So you can keep this if you want, but we're going to still be doing the side panels. So at this point, it's really hard to see what the top and what the sides are. So just know that right here where you just sewed, that's going to go on the bottom. So this here is going to go, so if you count 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, and then this row that you can hardly see is 15. This will go on the bottom. So for the most part, your 2 tires are going to cover your sides. So you just got to count your stitches to know what's top and the bottom. But it basically makes a square all in itself. So now the only thing we have to do, and this is going to be for chapter 2, part of chapter 2, is the end panels. Didn't sew them on. So my suggestion to you right now is to turn this inside out, because your first panel and part of your second one is going to be sewn on while this is inside out. So you can set this aside for now. Alright, for chapter 2, we're going to make the side or the end panels for the truck. This is where we ended off with on chapter 1. This should be turned inside out, which means no raised edges on this side. It's where the flat is. 1 panel and a half or 3/4 of a panel will be sewn on, and then we'll flip it right side in again. So we're going to start off chapter 2 with chaining 16. We're still using our 4mm. I think that's 16. Every time I screw up, not sure what count I'm on. So you're going to do 15 single crochets back up. We don't count the one that's already on our hook. This is my 15th stitch where my slip knot is. Chain 1, turn your work. So for the next 12 rows, you're just going to put 1 single crochet in each of these 15 stitches. Easy peasy. And I'm going to make 2 of these. So go ahead and I'm going to put the pattern, not that you need it, the whole big chain 16, do 15 single crochets. Anyway, I'll put all the stuff on my pause screen. And I will meet you back here to get them sewn on. So I've got both my panels done. So again, make sure this is inside out. Pull that through. And you want to make sure, obviously, that these are going on. So these don't really have a front and a back. They kind of both look the same. You just got to make sure that you put it on between your... So these spots here are where your raised areas are. So you just got to make sure that you're keeping it in line with those areas. And then you're just going to whip stitch. And like I said, this will stay in half until you're at least 3/4 of the way around on the other side, and then you can flip it around. So then you only have like this much that's really going to be exposed that wasn't sewn inside out. But just make sure your other corner lines up with this. I mean, it should, the size I made it. I shouldn't have to stretch it or anything. Working this corner is a little weird. You have to kind of do one of these just for everything to keep lining up okay. And put a couple of stitches in that corner. And when you do that, it keeps it nice and square too, right? So. And again, your corner, it's hard to see me. Your next corner should line up with your next divots without stretching or anything. If you do that with the corner there, it should work out. You definitely don't want rounded corners because it's a truck, right? We're not making a little car. I want to make a car. So you just keep going along, making sure you do that little pucker thing on the corner. Put 2 stitches in the corner and continue. So when you come to the end, put 2 in this corner. The second one can be the knot. I like to make a couple of knots just because it's kind of, you know, important. When you weave, just make sure you're staying on this surface. Don't go very deep with your weaving, because that's the other side that we're using, is that side. So it doesn't matter what it looks like on this side. So that's my one side. So I'm going to do my other side. So see how it's still square? Because I did the 2 in the corner and I did the puckering. So go ahead and do your other side, and I will see you. I'm just going to put that down there. I will see you on the other side. Oh, and make sure you're lining this up right. So make sure you're 15 rows. That's 12. This is the 15. That's the wide part, like that. So just make sure you're getting, I should have told you that the first time. So if you ever run out of yarn like I just did, just cut another little piece. I'm saving this piece to do the outside, but I just ran out of yarn right there. So I'm just gonna go and I've put a slip knot on the end of my yarn. And then I just make another knot on top of it. Actually, just to be on the safe side, I'm going to tie these two in a knot. So this is the inside of my project. It does not matter. And then I'll continue. So I'm just about, that's all I have to do right now. So I'm going to be turning it inside out in a minute, or right side in a minute. Anyway. So I only have this one seam left. Turn it right side in, and then we stuff it. So and pull all your corners out. This here that I just had while I was sewing, I'm going to make a knot because I left my straggler on the outside for sewing the outside. So I'm just going to go in here, make sure everything's tight, and I'm just going to make a knot. And then that can just drop down inside. So I use pantyhose because a subscriber, I think it was on my shark video, a subscriber said to me, I use pantyhose to, this is awkward to stuff. It really, 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 really is awkward to stuff. So, you can use any color. I've got black here, but I think I'll use red just because I'm using red right now. You just need to get it out of the package. So I'm just going to cut some off here. I don't know. Just kind of held it up to the truck body to see how big I needed it. But you can use any color that you want. And then I put my stuffing into this. So this is easier to stuff than this would be. And then I shove this into that. Does that make sense? And if you're using the wrong hook and you've got bigger holes, there's less chance, well, there's no chance of seeing the stuffing through it. You would just see the red or whatever color pantyhose you use. So, pantyhose are weird to stuff, but a lot easier than trying to stuff this truck. So whatever you're doing, go ahead and stuff your truck, and then we can sew it up and move on. And it does slide in there quite easily because it's pantyhose. I just wanted to make sure it was stuffed properly, especially at the end. But once it's in there, you can still keep filling your pantyhose or moving the stuffing around so that your truck is still square. So I can't really find where I sewed it together. So if you look on your thing the way we sewed it, you can't really see where we sewed it together. You can from the other side, but... So, and then just for the ends, just to make sure it stays square, I'm just going to pack the front. The hardest part about these trucks is just keeping it square. But it is just a child's toy, so... once you have it where you want it, let me go up a little more again. It's not all that super duper small, but you gotta make sure. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15. So this is my top 15 rows, so this is going to be on the side. So hopefully I can just do it nice enough. This is a raw edge because I would really love to do a mattress stitch here, but I can do kind of a makeshift mattress stitch just to keep it looking a little bit nicer, but I've got 2 raw edges, so it's the only part that I don't like is doing this last bit because it never looks right. But if we turn this over, so this is my 15, so this can be my top or the bottom, so if I turn it over, that's now going to be on the bottom. And my bumper goes across here, so I am all done mine. I am just going to do my weaving. I already made my knot. And the weaving doesn't have to be super duper serious. I really don't think anything's going to come undone, but most kids will just drive these around. They won't pull on them or anything, so I'm going to turn that over because that's going to be my bottom where my bumper's going to go. So I didn't go all out. I didn't put a grill on this truck. I didn't, but I did put a bumper and lights. I have my bumper and then my lights. I haven't done my back lights yet, but I have a back bumper on. So it will have backlights. Let me show you my other truck. Ooh. So my other truck has backlights and the front lights, but I didn't put a grill on this other one just because I don't think it's necessary. It's just a lot of colors at the front, and that's why I decided just to do the blue, or that's why I decided just to do the red at the front. Knocked all my papers down. So that's why I decided to just do everything red, because putting the gray on the front, it was just too much gray, I think. It just kind of took away from the fun feel of it. So the next thing we've got to do is we'll make the tires at the end because it's such a pain in the butt. But we can make the cab of the truck. So, and then we can do our windows. So the cab of the truck will be red or whatever color you're using, and then the windows are going to be white. So you're going to need both red and white. And this will be the same thing. This cab's, we're going to sew the windows on inside out, and then we're going to flip the cab around. So come back down here. So you're going to chain 13. You're going to single crochet 12 back up because that's all the stitches you have. The 13th one is still on your hook. Chain 1, turn your work. For the next 8 rows, you're going to put 1 single crochet in each of these 12 stitches. And I will see you on the other side. So that's my 8 rows. That's what you should have. So you're going to chain 1 and turn. We're going to do front post single crochet across 11 stitches, and then we're going to do our 1 single crochet. So same thing we did on the body of the truck. Front post single crochet. I'm on my last post, and then this last turning over stitch gets 1 single crochet. Chain 1, turn your work. And now for the next 8 rows. So again, not this, these stitches that we're going into. You're going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch for the next 8 rows. So this here, because this is going to create a bend just like we did with our truck body, this here, and I'll show you in a second. Let me just finish this row. Just make sure you're getting all your stitches in this row. So that is this part. So it's going to come down and it's going to turn and go to the back. So that's the part of the cab that we're making, which is why we did this part. So that's going to be the turn. So that's the roof, and now we're doing the back where a window would normally be. But when I put the window in, it ended up looking like a big bubble truck from like the Jetsons or something. It was horrible. So I took the window out and I just did it this way. So do your 8 rows and I will see you on the other side. So that's my 8 rows right there. So this is what it should look like. That's our raised area because that's where we did our half double, front post single crochet. So the natural bend, just like the truck body, and that's going to be the cab. So the next thing we need to do is make. Okay, how do I say this? I don't know what they're called. So these things down the side in between the windows, I don't know what they're called, these things. That's what we're going to do next before we fasten off. So chain 1, turn your work. We're going to do 12 single crochets. We're going to do 1 more round up here. And then we're going to turn it. So that's my 12th stitch. Now I'm going to turn and work on the raw side, and I'm going to do 8 single crochets. So don't chain 1 or anything there because we want it kind of rounded. It's a cab. So this is my 8th, and you're going to find it's right on this bump here. So that's my 8, and I am lined up with this raised ridge that we did. I'm going to chain 10. I'm going to do 9 single crochets back up. This is my 9th stitch. So that's our one side. So let's continue single crocheting down this corner, and then we'll do it again. So you can put 8 stitches in, 9 stitches, whatever. I think I did 9 last time. It doesn't matter. It's somewhat even. Yeah, see, this is my 8th stitch, so I can get the 9th one in there. And I'm going to chain 10. And do 9 single crochets back up. This is my 9th stitch, and I'm just going to continue. So this is my slip knot. I'm just going to weave this in as I go. This kind of takes away from what I got going on here. So I'm going to put a 2nd stitch in this space because my slip knot really screws up this whole side. This is my 12th stitch. The slip knot took that stitch away from me, that area, so I weaved in my tail. That's my 12th stitch, and I'm going to do 10 single or chain 10, 9 single crochets. This is my 9th stitch. Because I did 9 single crochets here, I'm going to do 9 single crochets up here, starting in the same stitch that I already did my 1 single crochet, because I did that over here. This is my 9th stitch, so you see what's going on here. And that's right on my raised area. I'm right on my raised area, so I'm going to chain 10. And I'm going to do 9 single crochets back up. So I've done my 9 stitches. I'm going to pop over here, and because on the other side I did 8 single crochets, I'm going to do 8 single crochets to the end. That's my 8th stitch, and this is what it should look like. So you should have these 4 things. That's what we're going to put sew the windows onto. so we can fasten off at this point. I kept this round, unlike putting 2 in here to keep this square. I kept this round, so we're not putting a second stitch in here. You can just go into your first stitch up here and fasten off, and that should keep it round. So you're going to need a sewing tail. And that's what you should have. So we have to make windows. You're going to need your white. So we're going to make 2 side windows and a front window. So we'll start with the side windows because you got to make 2 of them, and I'm probably not going to make both of them with you, just to keep the video shorter, or the chapters. This will be the end of the chapters, making the windows and then sewing them on, and then we'll go into chapter 3. So you're going to chain 11. These are the side windows. How well can you see that white? Oh, that's not bad. You can see it pretty good. So, you're going to do 10 single crochets back up. You're going to chain 1 and you're going to turn. For the next 9 rows, you're just going to do 10 single crochets. Everything is so easy peasy. And then you're going to make 2 of these. So I'll put my pattern, I'll put next what you're doing, the 9 rows. And then I'll put my pattern up for you to make your second window, and I will see you on the other side. So this is my second one. I'm done. I just finished. I weave in my straggler in from my slip knot, so that's why I don't have one. But if you have one, you have to tuck it in. So this has to be, you have to fasten off the sewing tail. Uh-oh. So we're gonna do all of our windows, and then we'll sew it all on. So the front window, you're going to chain 13 and you're going to do 12 single crochets. That's my 12th stitch. When I weave in my straggler, I just pull it up and start weaving like that. I keep it loose for the, I don't want to pull the corner out, but so that's all I do. Anyway, for the next 9 rows, the reason I'm saying 9, so these were 9 rows and 10 across. The raw side is what's going to get sewn to these, because these are 9 single crochets back up. So we chained 10 and did 9 single crochets. That's why these are 9 rows. So the raw side gets sewn to these little guys. So, and it's going to be the same thing with this, even though it's 12 single crochets across, because this is 12 single crochets across. It is 9 rows deep because it gets sewn to these guys. The reason why these are 10 single crochets and I did 9 single crochets is because I don't want this to pull in any which way, shape, or form. And that's why here I did 9, but these are 10 single crochets across. So you're not going to have to pull or stretch or anything. You're going to have extra room, and it's just going to make the windows look better. I had done the exact size, and it just seemed to be pulling and making an odd shape. So that's explains that, in case you guys were wondering what in the heck I'm doing. So for the next 9 rows, I just want you to put 1 single crochet in each of these 12 stitches. So fasten off with sewing tail. My sewing tails are always so much longer than I need, which is good, I suppose. So now we gotta sew all this stuff. So your raw edges get sewn to this, and then your stitched edges get sewn to the stitched edge. Make sure that this raised edge is down. We're going to sew everything inside out, and then flip it right side in, and then we'll sew the that's my front window. I'm going to do my side windows first, and then we'll do the eyes before we even attach it to the thing. It's just easier than trying to sew the eyes on after it's attached. So your raw edge goes down like this, like that. It's difficult, I'm not gonna lie about it. So apparently my battery died and I didn't know, and I just kept talking away. Anyway, I got mine sewn on like a mattress stitch this way. That way you don't see it from the top, right? Because that's gonna be the top of your cap. You just want to see the windows. So the sides are a little bit trickier, especially for me. Doesn't sew very well. Just make sure, I say sure wrong. Anyway, just make sure that you leave room for the window, the other window, to get sewn to the same thing. So it's the only thing that's a little bit trickier. Other than that, it's really hard not to go through. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's hard not to go through to the other side. So I just take some of my raw edge and then a couple of pieces, or a piece. So even it's going to be still be sewn on fine. It's just going to be sewn on weird. I don't know how to sew. Don't take directions from me. The biggest thing is just to make sure that corner is down on that corner. So then it's going to look like this. Oh, you can see where I weaved. I'm just going to pull that out. I'm going to weave that in a different direction. Anyway, so that's how I want you to do it. Well, you can do it any way you want. You don't need to do it the way I want you to do it. So this is going to be the inside. No one's going to see. So I'm just going to make my knot. I don't even know if you saw me on camera. Oh yeah, I'm pretty high up. You would have saw me. Sometimes I get off camera. I'm just going to weave a bit before I cut this off. Now, if you're really good at sewing, you can just weave over to the other side, but I'm not, and my yarn, this yarn splits when you sew too much with it, so I think I'm just going to grab a fresh piece. So anyway, get all your stuff sewn on, and I will see you on the other side. So the front window is not as hard because you've already got this kind of stationary. And then these, so once your front window's on, and then you can sew up the back like that. And that's what you're gonna do. And that's gonna be your cab. So it gets easier as we go. The two windows there are just way harder. And you know what? I don't sew well, so I'm probably making this even harder on myself because I'm probably doing it weird. So it's a little harder to do it, for me anyway, I guess, from that side, but you get the gist of it. So that's my window. So now I just have to take my red here. So when we roll this right side in, it's going to be fine. So I'm starting down here at the corner. So once you're done, this is when we can flip it right side in, and it should look decent unless you sew like me. But actually mine's not too bad. Certainly looks better than my other cab. So we're gonna be stuffing this. Well, we're gonna start sewing it on, then we're gonna stuff it. But before I do that, I would like to get the eyes done, because it's just way easier to do it that way, and then we can sew this whole thing on and stuff it. So let's do that next. So I start with black. I'm gonna do my eyes, I don't know. I did these ones green. It's like this tweed green. I'm not a huge fan of it. But I did those ones green, and I did these ones blue, and I really like the blue. So I think that's what I'm going to do. And this blue is a tweed as well. I think it's Craft Smart tweed. So I'm going to use this blue, but first we need to start with our black. Let me clean up my table here. First we need to start with our black. And that's going to be the eyes aren't going to be as big as my green truck, because my green truck is bigger. So the eyes are going to be the size that I just showed you on my purple one, because it's a smaller truck. So we'll start with black and do a magic ring of 6 single crochets. And then I want you to slip stitch, because we're going to, or you can fasten off to change the eye color. It's just easier. I'm going to fasten off to change my eye color, but you can do whatever you're comfortable with. So that is my pupil. So I'm going to go into this next stitch, and I'm going to fasten off. I find it's better to do it this way than to add your next color because you still get that bleed through. So before we add our color, I just want to take care of this dude at the back. A lot of people will just weave this in as they do their 6 single crochets, or even their next round, but I don't want to weave it in while I'm doing my next round. So I'm just going to take care of him now so that I don't have to worry about it annoying me. So get your eye color. I'm going to use the blue. Make a slip knot. So reattach in the same place that you fastened off. If you can get in there. It's not the easiest spot to get into once you fasten off. And it's super annoying when that sticks up. We're going to weave that in. So anyway, reattach. You're going to do 2 single crochets. So I'm going to reattach with a single crochet. I'm going to put a second one in that space. We're going to do 2 single crochets in each stitch around. This will give you 12 stitches. And I'm going to weave in all my crap at the back while I do it. And my last 2. So that's about the size of your eyeball. So I weaved all this crap around, so I'm just going to cut it off. I'm going to go into my stitch and I'm going to fasten off. I'm going to use the blue for a sewing tail. And because I weaved all this in at the back, it's just going to get snipped off. I use glue when I do eyes like this because it will tend to roll up if you don't sew completely right around it. But I find when you sew completely right around an eye, it tends to get out of shape, so I hate doing that. So I do use glue. I cheat. So go ahead and make your second eye, and I will see you right back here. So I got both my eyes done. So I put these little glints of white. There's my guy there. I'll show you my other guy here. Little glints of white. This one's always better to show because it's bigger. So I just put these, but you don't have to do that. I just chose to do it because it makes the eyes look better. Because right now they just look like they're going to be 2 creepy things on my window. But when you add the eyelashes and then these little glints of white, they do tend to look better. So I'm going to do that. You don't need to do that. So now we just have to sew our eyes on. Like I said, I use glue. First I like to determine where they're going to go. You gotta remember, we're going to make room for the eyelashes. And you want to make sure your glint's gonna not look so bad. I'm gonna stab myself one of these days. Kind of hard to tell. I might do my glinting more off to the side. Anyway, I think that's a good, decent spot. I'm more concerned about the outside rim of this and not so much so make sure my glinting's in the right spot. So the outside of my eye is what's important to me to sew down or to glue down, because that's the part that's gonna like curl. So that's my eyes. It almost makes the truck look sad putting the glinting down. I should probably have rethought that. So once you're done, you can just make a knot at the back. Mine are probably sewn on a little low. So as far as the eyebrows, you need to just, your eyelash brows, get some black. I wouldn't worry too much about making a knot on this end or anything. So, figure where you're going to come up. I don't know, I don't want this to be an angry looking guy. If you do it wrong, they look angry. So come over to where you want your eyelashes to start, and then you kind of just go in and pop out. It's hard to show you, I'm trying to hold on to this properly. So just make sure that stays above the eye, obviously. You're going to want to go in the same place and pop out just down from that eyelash to make your second one. And the same thing, you're just going to go in and you're going to pop out, make your second eyelash. You can put a number 3 eyelash in there, and that's just going back down and popping out the bottom. So the tricky part is matching it on the other side. That's the tricky part. Let's try that again. See, even I screw up, and I've done this a number of times. So there's my eyes all done with my little eyelashes on there. So, and I mean, that can be done for male or female trucks. I mean, it doesn't have to be male or female. Female, you can put a bow on it if you want this to be female. So, moving on. Let's get this thing sewed to the cab of the truck. So make sure you've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15 rows shown. Make sure that you know what the front and what the back is. So that's where I sewed my thing together. I'm going to make sure that is on the bottom. So it's up to you. I'm going to use red to sew mine on because I'm doing a whole thing around here anyway, so I'm going to use red. It's completely up to you where you put it. So I'm going to zoom out for a bit so you can see what the heck I'm doing. So it all depends on how I'm going to stuff mine a little bit before I start, because the last time I didn't do it with my last truck, and as you can see, I got them crooked. So my last one didn't turn out so well. My first one turned out fine. The last one didn't turn out so well. So I am going to put stuffing in mine before I start, and I'm going to pin it all down. So I'm just going to cut off a little bit. I don't need a whole pile of pantyhose. It doesn't matter if one side's open and one side's not. You can always put an elastic on there, or I'm just not going to push all the way through. This stuff won't go all the way through. Like, you have to force it in there. So if you need to tie one end to feel comfortable, you can probably do that. I don't need to tie one end. It's all going inside the same thing. I don't really care if it falls out. I just want it to be contained, because I don't want this pushing my windows out more than it needs to. Like, I'm trying to stop from overstuffing. And I'm also trying to make my life easier to be able to stuff it before I sew it on. This is a difficult thing to sew on. I'm going to tell you right now, it's very difficult. It was for me, anyway. Try not to go over your raised area, because that's the side of your truck. So you actually have to kind of, it's very difficult to sew on, I'm telling you. So I'm probably not going to be sewing it on camera, just because it's so difficult. But don't be too concerned about what you're using as far as the color of yarn, because I'm going to be doing a border around here anyway, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. So I've done my last stitch. I actually didn't do too bad sewing that on. So I'm on my last stitch. I'm pretty sure everything is even. It looks even. So the reason I wanted you to keep this out, let me get all my crap out of the way, is so every corner I tied a knot. So as I was sewing, I tied a knot here on my red thing, here on my red thing. So everything is pretty secure as far as knots go all the way around, because I don't trust my own sewing. So anyway, I'm going to go down into this red thing, and I'm going to pop out and go through that slip knot. Pulled a little tight. Anyway, make a knot, double knot. And that's just going to be our little, this is what we push down. So everything should be nice and secure. Push that down into your truck. And to put everything kind of back into place, but. So my cab is not overfilled because I used the pantyhose to stuff it. I think it might have gotten overfilled had I not used the pantyhose. So I made a chain. It's not a chain. It's a chain and then single crochets. And then I sewed it all the way around so that this is the truck bed, right? But then also, I found it really silly when I first initially did it, that's the bottom of the window normally. But with this, it actually looks like there's a door. Do you know what I mean? Even though there's not a door. I haven't put door handles on. I'm sure you could put door handles on, but I didn't do it. I didn't think that was an important part of the design. I just designed a truck. I didn't put any door handles on. But I mean, if you really want to get down to the brass bones, you could put door handles on. But I just thought putting this all around the bottom, you know, now you got a bottom windshield, you know, it just doesn't end in white. So that was the whole reasoning behind. It's just when I got this far, I was like, oh, that looks stupid. And it's not because my sewing shows. It's because I really think it looks stupid that it just goes down to the windows and there's nothing there. So that's why I decided to do 1 single crochet around the entire project. You can do a chain around and then do your 1 single crochet and sew it too. It's easier just to do, like, to be able to just wrap it around the front. So all depending on what size your truck is, because I don't know how you stuffed it, I don't know anything, you're going to have to determine the size your chain is. If you do, 90 might work. Yeah, 90 is fine. I'm going to do 92 because I'm going to do 1 single crochet, so we're going to lose that stitch and it's going to tighten up a bit. You can use a different size hook too. You don't need to use a 4mm if you want it tighter, but that's 90. So I'm going to do 92 and then this is how I chose to do it because I wanted this to look a certain way. I turned it around and I went back up in the back bumps. So those are the back bumps. That's your chain right there. Turning it over and going into the back bumps made it easier when it came to sewing it down. So that's what I did. And you've got this whole bottom thing of stitches to sew it down with. All that to sew it down with. So that's what I did. It might be better if you actually were closer to me. So I'm going to leave you with this, and then you can sew your stuff on. I'm probably just going to be finishing this when I start chapter 3. So, yeah, I'll see you in chapter 3. So I am done. Let me zoom out. Again, everything's a mess. The thing keeps falling over. Stay. So this is my thingamabobber. So I've got stitches on this side and I got stitches on this side. It's no different than I got glue on my finger. It's no different than if you were to do a chainless single crochet foundation. You want to have chains on both sides. The reason I didn't do a chainless foundation is because I don't want it that boingy. It doesn't need to be stretchy. It needs to not be stretchy. So fasten off. You are going to need a sewing tail. Now you don't need to sew this entire whole thing down. You just need to make sure that, you know, it's at least tacked on in spots. So I'm just going to hide my little straggler guy in my truck. Like I'm just going to pull it down through my truck when I get to that spot. So I just wrapped it around this way until it meets up at the back like this. So I've got extra space. So when I sew it on, Yeah, see, my eyes are really low. My eyes are really low. That wants to cover my eyes, so I may have to just kind of push it back and pull mine really tight. So I might actually take a few, I might take a few stitches out of mine. Because I don't know if I want it folded over that much. But this is the back of the truck, but I don't think I want it folded over that much. So I'm going to take a few stitches out of mine just because I've got to pull it tight right there because my eyes are too low. But that's what I want you to do. So I got my thing on all the way around. I don't even know. I didn't even count my stitches. I just measured it, but it certainly wasn't what I had told you guys. Just because I had to pull it really tight because my eyes are low. So hopefully your eyes are in a normal spot. Anyway, so the next thing we need to do, and I don't even know what chapter we're on, honestly. I don't know, 3, 4. I'm sure I put it on the screen. So we're going to get the tires done because those are kind of time consuming. So this is what they look like. I've done 3 of them for the video. So they don't take long. So I'm going to do the one with you. But that's what they look like. So they'll be like that. I love these little thingies. Anyway, so you need black and whatever your hubcap color is going to be. And I'll meet you right back here. Alright, so I got my black. I'm just using my 4mm. So I need you to make a magic ring of 6 single crochets. Your next round is going to be 2 single crochets in each stitch. So after the first stitch, that's where your marker goes. You should know this by now. It's like a habit when I say these things. So your next round is going to be 1 single crochet and an increase. You have to do 4 of these, so I'm going to do this one with you. And then you're going to be left to do this all by yourself. So that's 1 single crochet, and then your next stitch gets the increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. And repeat. Your next round is going to be 2 single crochets and an increase. This will bring you up to 24 stitches. Your next round is going to be 3 single crochets and an increase, and this will bring you up to 30 stitches. Your next round is going to be 4 single crochets and an increase, and this will bring you up to 36 stitches. Your next round is going to be 5 single crochet. I'm talking with the marker in my mouth. Your next round is going to be 5 single crochets and an increase. That's as high as we're going. This will give you 50 or 42 stitches, sorry. So, for the next 3 rows, I just want you to put 1 single crochet in each of these 42 stitches, and I will see you on the other side. So that is my 3 rows. So now we're going to start decreasing. We're going to decrease the same way we increase, so just one right after another. 5 decrease, 4 decrease, 3 decrease. So if you want to work ahead of me, that's what we're going to be doing. So this first one is going to be 5 single crochets and a decrease. That's number 1. And if you can do invisible decreases, we're going to be layering our decreases, so it might be beneficial to you. I know it's probably going to be really hard to see, but go into the front loop of your first stitch, and then zoom right across to the front loop of your second stitch, pull through those 2, and then finish the stitch. That's an invisible decrease. So your next decrease is going to be 4 single crochets and a decrease. Your next round is going to be 3 single crochets and a decrease. That's 3 single crochets and then my decrease. So just to make this chapter a little bit shorter, I'm going to put on my screen the next 2 decreases that I want you to do, and I will see you on the other side. And just for reference, if it's not in your language, you're going to be doing, we're on 3 single crochet decrease. You're then going to do, when you're done, 2 single crochet decrease. Then when you're done that, you're going to do 1 single crochet decrease. And that's when I'm going to meet you back, and you should have 12 stitches. So I'm done. I've got this tiny little hole. I did my 2 and my 1, and I stuffed it. So you can fasten off here if you want to cinch the hole at this size. I chose to go a little smaller, so I'm just going to decrease around a couple of times till my hole's smaller before I cinch. So I initially had wrote 5 times, but I mean that it's completely up to you what you do. It's your project. There's really, it's not going to make a difference. I just wanted mine to be a little bit tighter. So, but you can make your cinch tight. I'm going to fasten off. You are going to need a sewing tail, as well as a cinching tail. Probably a little long. So finish putting whatever stuffing you need to finish. I like to tuck it up and around under here because I don't seem to get into that spot when I stuff it where I stuff it. But you don't have to be overly serious. We're gonna pull on this and we're gonna make it divot a bit, but I lost my other needle. You're going to use the front loops for cinching, so you're going to go in the front loop and then out the front loop. I have to use one of these needles because I lost my good one. I swear my cat jumps up here at nighttime and starts bashing everything off of the table. Because when I go to bed, I'm stop filming, I just leave everything sitting here because it's my workspace. So once you're all the way around, you can just pull that closed. I know black is hard to see, so that's why I'm trying to talk you through it. So pop across, and we're going to make a knot here to secure that cinch. So go through your loopy loop. Pull that down. Now I like to come across the other way as well. So two different directions. That's what I like to do. You don't have to. Okay. So, I don't know if my needle's long enough for this, but we need this to kind of suck in like that to make a tire. So, this is what I did. I went in. It's kind of next to my lead, sort of. And I popped out on one side of this magic ring that we did at the beginning. So hard to see. So I popped out next to the magic ring on that side. I don't pull all the way through. I want you to leave a loop. And then I go back down the other side of the magic ring. So I came out here and I'm going back down over here. And I'm going to pop out the bottom. I'm going to pull that down. I'm going to go through the loop. And then I'm going to pull, and that'll pull that right down like a donut. Well, not right like a donut, but it pulls it down so you can see my finger in it. It's black, it's so hard to see. And you don't need, I wouldn't worry about making a knot or anything because that's what we just did. So that stays like that. We're going to do more stuff when we make the hubcap that's going to keep that nice and secure and not go anywhere. So let's make the hubcap really quick here. It's super duper fast. You're going to do a magic ring of 6 single crochets. I have a cold coming on. That's 6. Your next round, your only round, is going to be 2 single crochets in each stitch for 12 stitches, and then you're going to fasten off. That's your hubcap. So that's my 12 stitches. So I'm just going to go into the next stitch and fasten off. If you think you need bigger hubcaps, then by all means do another round. I personally do not think I need ginormous hubcaps on here. So I'm going to tuck this little guy away. And again, I use glue, so make that as flat as you can. I just find when you are not quite sewing it. I'm not sewing this, by the way. Ish. I'm not sewing it, ish. Oh, I hate using these little needles. Man, I wish I knew where my other needle was. So even though I'm using glue, I'm going to go in and out a couple of times. So that's enough for me. I'm going to go back down. I'm going to pop out the back here. Kind of next to my black piece. And then I'm going to tie these two together in a double knot. So pull tight, but not so tight that... Oh, yeah, see, I pull too tight and it gets out of shape a little bit. So I need to just pop that up, and then of course I wreck it a little bit. So anyway, that helps kind of suck it in too. So you just want to and then you can just tuck these away. And I need to find a needle I can work with. I gotta find my other needles. So I just kind of go in and pop out somewhere. These needles are so bendy. And there we go. So I need you to make 4 of these, obviously. Four tires. And I'll meet you back here once you're done this, and we can sew them on, and then we can get making the bumper. So, I'm sure all your tires are done by now. I use a great big long needle to do mine. Because I don't actually sew these on, I kind of just tie them together-ish. I'm not a sewer, so I try to make my life as easy as possible. My thing is right in the center of my tire. So I just need to figure out where my tires are going. And how high up my tires are going. And then just kind of go down through. Now when I go through, I'm hoping, so I'm going through about 2, 4, between the 4th and 6th row. 2, 4, I gotta come out between that, and then I'm 2, 4, 6, 8, about 10 stitches deep. 2, 4, 6, 8, yeah, that's about it. So once I figure out that I'm even Steven, I come up and I go through this tire, in the middle with the same piece of yarn. Unfortunately, some of my stuffing comes with it. I hate that. I hate. So, just got to make sure that our tires look correct. I'm going to go back, not down the same hole. You are going to see this black though in your thing. So if you want, you can just kind of go down this. I don't want to do that. You pop out into your tire if you want. You're still going to see this black. But if you pull it tight enough, you can hardly even tell. I know, it's so dark. Everything's so dark. Anyway, you can go in and out a few times if you actually wanted to sew. But I'm telling you right now, I never did any of this on my other ones. I just went back and tied these two pieces together, because you get little things like that happen. The pulls. Anyway, I'm going to go back down the same stitch. I'm going to come back out the bottom because I didn't do this with my other ones. I never sewed it on. I just tied them on. So I'm not going to do it with this one. They were perfectly secure the way they were. I just need to make sure that they're in the same place and you haven't pulled too tight. So there's my string from this one. All I want to do is go down and I want to come out a hole near everything. And then I thread this guy. So thread your other tire. Now he's way under here, so it doesn't really matter where you go down, because he's already attached to the tire. So come out the same hole if you can. Mine's splitting because of the needle I'm using. Try to come out the same hole. I tied these together in a double knot. Cut off and I poked down. So I didn't actually sew my tires on. I tied my tires on. So poke that down in there and then kind of puff everything back up. So that's how I want you to sew your tire. Well, I mean, you can put your tires on any way you want. I am in no way telling you what to do as far as your tires go. I'm going to get my other two on and then I'll meet you back here. We can do the bumper. So I'm just finishing up my other tires. So just make sure that they're not too tight, that they still turn, because I mean that's fun for kids, right? Which is another reason I didn't sew them down, I just tied them down. So we're gonna go to our bumper part next. So get whatever color that you want for your bumpers. I think my car's lopsided. And whatever you want for your bumpers, whatever color, and I'll meet you on the other side of my pause. Well, I'm not putting a pause screen up, but transition. Okay, so this is my guy. This is the bumper that I made. This is for my other truck, but this is what it's going to look like. The reason we're not using it for this truck is this truck is smaller and it just won't fit, so I have to make it shorter. But this is the bumper for my other truck that I'm doing. But that's what it's going to look like, and it's super duper easy peasy that we don't need to be together through the entire thing. So let me move this guy. I have nowhere to put this guy. Down here into my... So I'm using this gray color, the color that I just showed you. And I'm using my 4mm still. So you're going to make a magic ring of 6 single crochets. Your next round is going to be 1 single crochet and an increase. So this brings you up to 9 stitches. Your next round is going to be 2 single crochets and an increase. So you can flip this around. For the next 21 rows, I just want you to put 1 single crochet in each of these 12 stitches. So I technically don't use my marker. I'll show you what I do. It's just faster to not use your marker. So this is my 12 stitches, and I don't take the marker out. I just kind of keep going over it while I count. So I just go into that shared space with the marker, and then I just move it out of the way and I keep going. So the marker's going to stay there just so I know where I come back around. Now we are working in a spiral, so you are going to end up over here a bit, but... And then I just mark on my row counter. I do like 3 rows at a time, so I count to 36 and then I go 1, 2, 3. Count to 36, 1, 2, 3. That's what I do. So for 21 rows, 12 stitches, I see you on the other side. That's my 21 stitches. Not too bad. So now we have to decrease to make the look sort of like the other side. So we're going to do a 2 single crochet decrease because we did a 2 single crochet increase. So that's number 1. Number 2. It doesn't really matter what kind of decrease you do. I'm just doing a regular one. So that's my 2 single crochet decrease. So you should have 9 stitches at this point. We're going to do a 1 single crochet decrease, bringing you down to 6 stitches, and then we're going to fasten off. So we can go into the next stitch and fasten off. We're gonna cinch this shut. You do need a long tail to sew it to the truck. We're not stuffing this. This gets laid flat. I don't know what my cat's problem is, but this gets laid flat. Still haven't found my needle. It's gonna drive me crazy. So go into the front loop and out the next loop. In and out. All the way around. I only have a few stitches, so that's good enough for me. Pull it tight. You're gonna kind of pop across, make a knot. You can make a second knot if you want, but I don't think it's necessary. So I'm just pop over here for the sewing part of it. So go ahead and make your second one, and I will see you on the other side. Alrighty. I am back. We are back with our bumpers. So, I never sew these on straight for some reason, but this is where they go. One goes there, and of course the other one goes there. So, that's what we're gonna do. Now, there we go, my bumpers are on. I can't keep my pins in until my glue dries, but my bumpers are on. They're fairly low, so I can still get my lights on. And the lights is all we have left. That'll be next. So our tail lights, we're going to start with white, where you're going to use whatever color your bumper color was. We're going to use that to do around the project at the end of it. And yellow and white for the headlights. So make a slip knot. You're going to chain 4, and you're going to do 3 back up. Three back up puts you in the very last stitch. You're going to chain 1. You're going to turn your work. For the next 3 rows, now don't mind me, I'm going to weave in my straggler piece here. For the next 3 rows, which is going to not take you any time at all because it's 3 stitches, you're just going to put 1 single crochet in each of those stitches. So at the end of this, you're going to switch to yellow. So I'm not going to finish that stitch with my white. I'm going to finish it with my yellow. All this stuff can be weaved in while you work or at the end with the gray. So chain 1, turn your work, and with yellow you're going to do 2 rows. So again, it doesn't take any time at all. It's 3 stitches. My yellow is thicker than my white, so I've got worsted yellow. I don't have a 4-weight yellow, so bear with the struggle of So that's my 2 rows. So on my second one, I'm going to change to gray. So I'm not going to finish that with my yellow. I'm going to finish it with my gray. Find my gray. And you can weave in everything here. So with your gray, you're going to go around the entire project. So you're going to chain 1. Put 2 single crochets into this first stitch. 2 single crochets in each corner, and then just 1 wherever you can jam your hook into. Try to keep them fairly close together, and then you can weave in all this crap while you do it. Use the gray to sew with, and then if you weaved in everything back here, it can just all get cut off. And that's your headlight. So when you put it on the truck, let me get my guy. The yellow, let me zoom out so you can see what I'm doing a little bit. So the yellow, the white's the headlight, the yellow is the side light. So it goes on the corner like that. So you can even, you know, squeeze your corner if it's not so square, but it goes on the corner like that, just above the bumper. I mean, I think we all know what cars look like. So make your other one, get them sewn on, and then we'll go to the tail light. I'm going to use glue again for mine. So those are my headlights. I'm actually not doing too bad of a sewing job. I actually got everything straight unlike my other ones. So that's the rear. I still got my pins in it, but I'll move those in later. This is my rear brake light. So that's what we're going to be doing next. I already have it sewn on and everything, just to make life easier. It's a little awkward sewing these things on and stuff, so this is super duper quick. So it's just red and gray. So you're going to chain 4 and you're going to do 3 single crochets. Get into the 3rd stitch. So you're going to do the same thing as last time because we want it to be the same size-ish. So you're going to do 3 rows of 1 single crochet in each stitch, which is 3. So that's my 3 rows. I'm going to finish my last stitch with gray. This is what kind of gives it its size. And then with gray, I'm going to do 1 single crochet around the perimeter, around the entire project. So chain 1. And again, we're going to put 2 single crochets in each corner because we want to keep a certain shape. We don't want this to be all rounded and start curling. And again, I'm going to pull up on my stitches and do extended stitches. Keep everything all loosey-goosey. So when you come back around, do your slip stitch, fasten off with a sewing tail. Easy peasy. That's your brake light. So, oh, I just dropped my brake light. I got it. Again, I'm going to use glue. Now, this is more at the back and not really wrapped around the side, but I still kind of put it in the corner. So, you know, I think you get an idea of what's supposed to transpire here. I think we all drive cars. We should all know. And even if you don't drive a car, you should still know. So anyway, get your tail light sewn on. So that is it. This is my little red truck. I hope you guys liked this video. Now at Christmas time, you know, the little red truck with the Christmas tree in the back. Yeah, I'm going to do that whole thing for Christmas. I'm probably not going to make another truck, but I'll do the whole Christmas tree and everything. So I love my little red truck. So, and I'm sure my grandkids are going to love the other little trucks that I did. So thanks for joining me, guys. I'll see you in the next video.